Hey guys, did you catch the enhanced games this past weekend? It was exciting stuff, let me tell you. There was a new world record set in the 50-meter freestyle.
Colomeve coming now. That world record, 20.88. They're stroke for stroke. Proud. Colomeve, proud world record. 20-point record. New world record.
And Thor Bjornsson almost set a deadlift world record of 515 kilograms.
Once that bar starts moving, he's going. Here we go. He's fighting. He's got to pass his knees. He's got to finish this. He's got to lock it out. Oh, he just cannot. It's just a bit too much.
And as for the 100-meter dash...
And it's a clean start. Curly, Matadi in 2 and 4, coming down the stretch. Curly is going to take it, and Curly's going to come in with a time of 9.98.
Well, the less said about that, the better. But yes, in case you hadn't noticed, the Enhanced Games just took place this past weekend in Las Vegas. Amazing, wonderful. I'm sure you saw some of the highlights of that amazing sporting competition. So, what are the Enhanced Games, you may be asking, if you happened to miss that part of the news cycle? Well, I suppose you could try to discern that from the unsurprisingly ADHD-inducing TikTok-edited shorts and reels that are floating around on the Enhanced Games' various official social media profiles.
The Enhanced Games, a new era where sport meets spectacle, where records fall and traditions are rewritten. The world's best athletes, fully unleashed and powered by science.
Or you could just turn to the bastion of truthiness, Wikipedia, for their handy-dandy entry on the Enhanced Games, which tells us that the Enhanced Games, TEG, is a multi-sport event founded by Australian businessman Aaron D'Souza. It allows athletes to use performance-enhancing substances without being subject to drug tests. Organizers claim these substances must be FDA approved and used under medical supervision. D'Souza stated that he founded the games based on the principle of bodily autonomy for athletes, further alleging that the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, maintains an exploitative relationship with competitors. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. You can go and read up on all the details for yourself if you're so inclined, but I think you get the idea. This is the steroid Olympics. Everyone's juiced. Cool. What could go right? Well, I'm for bodily autonomy. Maybe I should be for this. What could be wrong about this? Well, let's inquire into that in today's edition of Questions for Corbett, and we take our cue for today from a question in the mailbag from Christian, who writes, I came across a BBC News article regarding the newly allowed Enhanced Games. I was wondering what connections it has to the transhumanist agenda, for obvious reasons. Yes, thank you, Christian. Very, very good question, and one that's very timely, given that we have just seen the first ever Enhanced Games take place this past weekend, with all eyes on the world on the steroid Olympics. Well, certain outlets are picking up on that vibe. For example, The Telegraph, athletes at steroid Olympics are walking billboards for Big Pharma, which starts to get us somewhere towards answering your question, Christian. So let's take a look. This article notes that those behind the so-called steroid Olympics claim the event will reward athletic excellence, celebrate scientific innovation, and explore human potential. But its critics argue that those lofty ideals are a long way from the reality, which is that rather like the resort and the city in which the event is taking place, the Enhanced Games is a cynical, dangerous stunt, exploiting athletes and a credulous public to get rich. It goes on to note that the global pharmaceutical industry generates roughly $1.7 trillion in annual revenue, comparable to the gross domestic product of countries like Spain, Mexico, or South Korea. And one particular corner of it is growing fast: enhancement. And then it gets into this looks maxing idea, which is all the rage amongst the kids these days. I don't know about you, but I have been unable to avoid this topic in my news feeds over the past several weeks, as someone going by the name of Clavicular has become some sort of internet star amongst, I don't know, teens, tweens, 20-year-olds, I don't know, because he's enhancing himself by hitting himself with a hammer or something. I don't know. I am not interested, but it is being shoved in our faces through the news feeds these days, and everyone has heard of this looks maxing idea, taking various substances, enhancements, and upgrades to become more attractive. Yeah, what could go right? And this goes on to say that in many reports, these subcultures like looks maxing are a natural extension of a social phenomenon which has been on the rise for decades. The use of cosmetic, surgical, and pharmaceutical intervention to look younger, stronger, healthier. Botox, Mounjaro, Ozempic, peptides, the fascination with people such as Brian Johnson, the tech entrepreneur behind Project Blueprint, who spends millions annually working with a team of doctors to reverse his biological age. Because, of course, all of these Silicon Valley tech bro ghouls are obsessed with finding the fountain of youth in whatever peptides or whatever else they're ingesting, the blood of the innocent, whatever it is, whatever adrenochrome concoctions that they are cooking up in Silicon Valley to stay young forever. Anyway, I think you start to see how this idea of the enhanced game starts to lead us in a certain direction, and I think you're going to find some very unsurprising connections once we start actually digging into who is behind these games. But before we get there, just to underscore the point that these steroid Olympics are a big pharma advertisement, go to enhanced.com, the actual homepage of this enhanced games idea, and you'll find that in the menu bar, it is not the games themselves that are featured first and foremost, or the athletes, or the science. Science schmience. It's the products. And yes, of course, it is basically just an advertisement for all these supplements and things that you can buy to enhance yourself, just like those athletes you're watching on the live stream. Wonderful. But there is information about the games, the athletes, and the science behind this, including the Independent Medical Commission that is behind this, and the Independent Scientific Commission that is advising this, including such illustrious figures as, George Church, Professor George Church, PhD. Where have I heard about George Church before? Epstein's interest in genetics led him to sponsor a number of scientists working in the field, including George Church, a Harvard geneticist whose lab received funding from Epstein's foundation from 2005 to 2007 for cutting-edge science. Church publicly apologized for his connection to Epstein, which included several meetings a year from 2014 onward. This was neither the first nor the last time that this unassuming Harvard biologist, whose cutting-edge science often strays into controversial areas, caused a public scandal. In 2019, Church proposed a genetics dating app, which was immediately denounced as applied eugenics. Church also acted as scientific advisor to Editas Medicine, a startup seeking to use the genome editing tool CRISPR-Cas9 to eliminate diseases by deleting the parts of a genetic code responsible for the illness. In 2015, the company announced it had raised $120 million from a group led by Epstein's appointed backup executor, Dr. Boris Nikolic. Naturally, that group of investors included Bill Gates. Oh, right. That George Church. I remember now. Yes, and that should give you some indication of the types of characters who are behind this. So a little research project for those at home who are playing along. Why don't you go through that Independent Medical Commission and the independent scientific body there on enhanced.com and find out some of the other characters who are involved with this from the scientific point of view and find out what else they might be interested in and working on and working with. And I'm going to bet it won't be too long before you start stumbling down the Silicon Valley / transhumanist rabbit hole. And I'm sure this will not come as a newsflash to any of my regular listeners, but people out there who haven't studied this may not know about that aforementioned Silicon Valley tech bro quest for the fountain of youth, which is a recurring theme. You will know about it if, for example, you followed my multi-part story of last year, I believe it was last year, on the strange story of Peter Thiel, in which I went down the Peter Thiel rabbit hole and found, as I eventually found, Peter Thiel is a vampire. That's right. Well, it has been alleged that he is a vampire at any rate. And he is demonstrably invested in and interested in various anti-aging technologies, including what can be done with the blood of the young. Yes, literally taking blood from the youth and trying to concoct some sort of magic elixir from them, which Teal may or may not be doing himself. There's no actual proof that he's a literal blood-drinking vampire, guys. But he could be. Anyway, this is where we start to go. So let's just play a game. Let's see how long it takes to find the connection between these enhanced games and someone like, I don't know, Peter Thiel. Let's just see. Do you think that exists? Let's start by going to a search engine and typing in enhanced games board of directors. And let's just start going down this rabbit hole, guys. We'll do it live. Here we go. Okay, so we've got this board of directors, and Maximilian Martin has been appointed CEO and assumes all operational leadership duties, yada, yada. With Martin's appointment, founder Dr. Aaron D'Souza has transitioned out of the company's day-to-day operations while remaining a shareholder. Aaron D'Souza. Okay, that's a name. He's the founder behind all this. So let's go back to the search and type in this guy. Who is this guy? Let's go to his official website. Dr. Aaron D'Souza is the founder and CEO of Objection, the AI tribunal for testing claims made in the media. He is also the founder of the Enhanced Games and led Peter Thiel's historic litigation against Gawker Media. And there's a link. And this man helped Peter Thiel demolish Gawker. Remember that? Remember when this libertarian free speech activist Peter Thiel funded Hulk Hogan's takedown of Gawker because, of course, Gawker had written that article outing Peter Thiel as a homosexual. And so he funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker as part of a strategy and a plan to take down Gawker. And they were successful at that, weren't they? Well, who was behind that? Apparently this Aaron D'Souza guy, who is the founder of the Enhanced Games, comes along, and he was the one who apparently actually proposed this Gawker Media lawsuit funding strategy to Peter Thiel. And this article is interesting. It deserves to be read in its entirety because there's a lot of interesting details in here, including the fact that how did they know each other? Where did these two meet? What was, who knows? But anyway, somehow or other, D'Souza managed to propose this to Thiel, and yada, yada, bada bing, bada boom. So, and then it goes into D'Souza and his interesting accomplishments. But I found this particularly interesting too. In late 2016, a pitch deck circulated among potential investors and first reported by the Australian Financial Review claimed that Sargon, which D'Souza co-founded, had secured a $45 million Australian dollar commitment from a Silicon Valley luminary. That luminary? Peter Thiel. Yes. So, of course, after helping formulate the strategy that took down Gawker, then Thiel helped D'Souza with his various ventures, including this Sargon, whatever they're talking about here, but also, of course, the Enhanced Games, because once you really start delving down this rabbit hole, you're going to find who is really funding and who is behind this in a financial sense, where we start to get to the meat and potatoes of the Enhanced Games / transhumanist connections. Steroid Olympics organizer to go public in $1.2 billion SPAC deal, says the Financial Times. What is a SPAC deal? Oh, you haven't heard of the special purpose acquisition companies that are used to take companies public without the usual IPO formalities? Well, anyway, there's a lot to learn from that, but long story short, the Enhanced Games and Athletics competition, dubbed the Steroid Olympics, has agreed to go public by merging with a blank check company in a $1.2 billion deal that is likely to heighten already considerable scrutiny on the controversial venture. And yes, Enhanced, which is backed by billionaire Peter Thiel and Donald Trump Jr., a son of the U.S. president. Oh, thank you. Oh, that Donald Trump Jr. Thank you, Financial Times. Encourages athletes to use performance and blah, blah, blah. The deal values Enhanced at $1.2 billion, including debt, and is expected to provide up to $200 million in cash. And then it goes on to talk about some of the other investors, as well as Thiel and Trump Jr. Enhanced is backed by investors including Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss and Saudi Prince Khaled bin Al-Walid bin Talal, KBW Ventures. Oh, right, that guy. Wasn't he the one that was arrested in that Saudi purge in 2017. Do you remember the Saudi purge and all those billionaires being arrested in a hotel and all of that stuff? Oh, yeah. Anyway, here he is with Peter Thiel and Donald Trump Jr. and others backing these enhanced games. So, yeah, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And you'll notice that many of these players actually happen to be the exact same players that are financially invested in things like Polymarket, which you're also hearing all about in all of the news feeds these days, aren't you? So funny how this rolls, but not particularly surprising. Yes, there is undoubtedly a connection to the tech brawligarchy that is coming into view and that is manifesting around all of these ideas that are taking the prediction markets and the enhanced games and other such things. And of course, they're employing people like, or getting the services of people like George Church, literal eugenicists who are working with the likes of Bill Gates, etc. It is one big incestuous club, and thankfully, you're not in it. But these are the characters that are swirling around this, and I think precisely because, as Christian intimates in his question, there is a larger agenda behind this. This is not just a, ooh, wow, I wonder what people can do on steroids. This is part of the seeding into the consciousness of the enhancement of humanity, which is, of course, the way that the transhuman agenda will and is already. This is not some far-off future prediction that I'm making. It is already being sold to the public in the name of making them better, faster, stronger, fitter, healthier. If you're not on Ozempic and, I don't know, hitting your face with a hammer, you're not cool these days. Right, kids? And we're now experiencing the full court press that we're really just seeing the beginning of at this point. And yes, this first enhanced games is actually absolutely part of that longer agenda. The great replacement agenda, as in the great replacement of humanity with the cyborgian upgraded transhumanity of the future, and of course, ultimately to get rid of humanity altogether. That is where things are going. I know it seems like such a giant leap. Oh, you conspiracy theorists always talking about these things. Well, here it is in black and white. Thiel and Trump Jr. and all of these brawligarchs and the Silicon Valley vultures, the adrenochrome swilling enhancers of humanity, would-be enhancers, are involved in the enhanced games because this is an advertisement. Literally for enhanced.com, which is selling you all of these supplements, but also on the broader psychological operation side of things to sell you on the idea that you're going to upgrade your body in various ways, which will eventually, of course, lead to the brain chip and all of that. But the first steps first. It's just a little steroid cream, or it's just a little thing a supplement that you take. It's just a little injection, whatever, guys. It's not a big deal. Everyone's doing it. Anyway, I think you know where this is going, and if you don't, you have some catching up to do. So I will throw in my recent edition of Questions for Corbett on what is the Great Replacement. I'll throw in my previous edition on what is the trans agenda, because I think those are all of a piece. We are being led in a direction. And yes, I am all for bodily autonomy and people doing what they will with their body. It's not going to affect anyone else. Okay, you go and do it. But having said that, I personally am not interested in the enhanced games. I am not supporting it. If you would like more information about these games and about the Max Martin, who is now the CEO, not that Max Martin, anyway, Maximilian Martin, who is the CEO, I will throw in a link to a podcast he was on, one of those kind of like, hey guys, this will be a great investment type podcasts where they just spend basically the whole hour talking about how cool it is that athletes will be able to upgrade their body. And to their credit, and to the credit of Max Martin and the other people who were involved in the enhanced games, at the very least, I think they are correctly calling out the fact that, yes, the IOC and all these anti-doping agencies and committees that are stewarding over the world of sports as we know them are not exactly doing a good job. On purpose, of course, because, of course, all of these athletes are always trying to enhance in various ways and take PEDs that aren't being caught in the tests yet until they are, and then they'll move on to the next one. People feign shock and amazement that, wow, it's like the human body is just getting better and better every year. We have these unbreakable all-time world records that keep getting broken every couple of years. How does this happen? Yeah, it's because they have better running shoes these days, right, guys? No, it is because obviously steroids and other enhancements, much more fancy chemical enhancements, are available to athletes these days, and they do use them. And so the Enhanced Games is just being open about it. So what's wrong with that, guys? Anyway, I'm not telling people what to enjoy or not to enjoy. I am telling you, though, that this is part of a long-term PSYOP campaign. And the ray of hope for me is that at least one of my listeners here, Christian, was able to identify that as soon as he saw some BBC article about the Enhanced Games. He knew where this was going. And I think anyone with their head screwed on straight will similarly know about that. Anyway, that's an interesting foray into the world of sports. And I have much more to say about many other things, so I hope you will be tuned in for that. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. Looking forward to talking to you again in the near future. Computer whiz kid.
Part of your genius is that you are a computer whiz.
Cutthroat businessman.
The US Justice Department contended that the software giant had breached antitrust laws.
Selfless philanthropist.
Bill, even your harshest critic would have to admit that your philanthropy work is, planet-shaking, incredible.
Ruthless eugenicist.
But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion.
As more and more of our world is coming to rely on Bill Gates for his guidance,
One of the best informed voices is that of businessman and philanthropist Bill Gates.
it is time to ask what really lies behind Gates's quest for control.
Things won't go back to truly normal until we have a vaccine that we've gotten out to basically the entire world.
It is time to ask, who is Bill Gates? Watch the complete documentary for free at CorbettReport.com/Gates, or support the work and purchase a DVD copy at NewWorldNextWeek.com.